So it has been 2 weeks ever since Alpha got released, and I assume you guys have been using her for literally everything. Now everything I mean, pain cages, war zones, story stages, and event stages, pretty much co-op as well. Now, I think you guys have already gotten very good at her because consider that you use her for literally everything, but I might know something that you might not know. That's why I want to share it out through this video. I found it out personally and it annoys me, but I found a solution for it. So if you're interested, stay around, and if you end up finding it helpful, be sure to leave a thumbs up. It really helps for the video, and make sure to subscribe so I can make more videos, I get more motivation. So let's get into this. So I've been playing Alpha for almost like 2 weeks now, and I do kind of realize that this kind of situation happened like really often to my gameplay at least, where you kind of accidentally tap your blue orb here. And let's just assume that 3 red orb doesn't exist, and it's kind of like an RNG where you have like mixed orbs that you can't proc your sword wave. In this situation, what should you do? Because you've gotten so used to Alpha, and it's kind of hard to ignore the fact that you might accidentally tap on your blue orb as soon as you do dodge, because you're always in the mood where you just want to get into the sword wave immediately and do the burst damage onto the enemy. But sometimes when you don't realize that you don't have 3 link orbs together, you kind of got into the situation where you have to restart the combat, or maybe if you don't want to restart the combat, you could do what I do here. So if you take a look at here, accidentally pop my blue orb. Just assume that the 3 red orb doesn't exist there. It's just like a mixed orbs where you can proc your core passive. Just take a look. As soon as you enter a sword wave here, because previously you have already proc your blue orbs, so after 5 seconds your buff is literally over. Your increased attack speed, your increased damage is already gone. So you would kind of found like you get into situations like this where it feels very slow when you do your core passive and you don't feel like you have enough damage. Now I do have a solution for this. It's really simple. You can find it out during this video. I'll just play it and let you guys see what's happening, and then I will explain it later. Alright, can you see the difference here? My attacks aren't sluggish at all. It's kind of like there is a certain attack speed there. It's just way faster than the previous video. So now I'm gonna explain it. Now if you don't play Alpha super often, you might not realize what happened there, but I'm just gonna explain it. So as you can see here, right here, where I go into attacking her, and I dodge using my blue orbs way too early without realizing that I don't have a 3 orbs linked together to get into the sword wave mode. So how I deal with it is, take a look at what I did here. Like during this time, it's been a while since I used my super matrix, so I kind of know like my super matrix is almost done resetting its CD. So I knew I'm getting like a reset with my dodge immediately. So ran away from her. You don't have to run away from her. You could keep attacking if you time your dodge easily. I ran away just so you guys can see the details easier. So that's why I did that. And she blinks, she kind of show like the red glow in her eyes, and I know what her attack pattern is because I've been challenging her almost like more than 100 times now. I know what she's gonna do next. See what I did here? I pop my blue orb first. Now if you know what blue orbs does, you know that no matter how much orbs you pink, the buff lasts for 5 seconds. So after you use your 3 blue orbs during the first super matrix and you accidentally does that and you get into this kind of situation, using an extra 3 blue orbs, getting into super matrix right here and use extra 3 blue orbs doesn't work. You don't get attack speed, you don't get nothing. It's purely just to get you into your core passive. So the purpose here is to kind of use that blue orb, and because the buff lasts for 5 seconds, you do get increased attack speed as well. So that's why you can see here when I get into my sword wave mode, my attacks are so much faster and it does more damage, of course. I mean, the numbers have already shown there in the blue orb description where it does increase your damage. So it's not like an illusion. Like you might think that your eyes are tricking you, but you're actually doing your attacks way faster. So this is my solution to anyone that has a habit to get into kind of pinging your blue orb way too early before you get into a sword wave mode. So this is how you deal with that situation. If you don't want to reset your combat, let's say if you're halfway through the fight and you've done everything perfectly in the first half, where you have dodged every single attacks from the enemy bosses and you have not got attacked by the enemy, where you're trying to challenge like the perfect high score, and you kind of mess up in the middle. This is where you could use this method to kind of finish the game without having to retry the game again, because I know how frustrating it is to get into like trying to do the first half perfectly, and when you mess up you literally have to restart everything. So this is my solution. So the next thing I want to talk about is whether it's better to use alpha in like a short burst mode or a long burst. So I do have a video to showing you that what's a short burst and what's a long burst. So this is a short burst. The short burst means that you get into your core passive as soon as you have your orbs. So this is what I did here. Pull my blue orbs and then I use my yellow orbs to get into the core passive immediately. That's a short burst. So what a long burst means that you kind of have more than 6 to 7 orbs when you went into a sword wave mode. You kind of have like more than 10 orbs, which is what you can see on my screen here. I do have 13 orbs before I get into the sword wave mode, so I dodge, I go into sword wave mode, and I have a lot more orbs to kind of attack the enemy. So what I want to do is a compare where either short burst is more ideal or long burst is more ideal. Now before we get into this, I do want to mention that it really doesn't matter if you don't have Alpha's signature weapon. The signature weapon is the main theme here, where if you have that weapon, long burst and short burst does affect you, but if you're using a 5-star weapon for your alpha, it really doesn't matter, so you can ignore that if you don't have alpha's signature weapon. So now I'm gonna do a comparison whether you should be using like short burst more often or should you be using a long burst. I kind of will compare the damage. So what I'm gonna do for short burst is I'm gonna go into like 2 core passive, so kind of active my core passive twice, and when I do like a long burst, I'm just gonna enter to like my core passive once. Now when you're doing a short burst, you're more than often gonna get like around 6 to 7 sword wave orbs, and that's it. So in order to kind of balance your damage and make it a fair comparison, we would cap the time around like 24 seconds as a limit. On top, if you can see the top right corner, there's a timer there. 24 seconds would be like the ending time. So 2 short bursts, 6 to 7 orb adds up to around like 12, 13, 14 on average. And when you go into a long burst, you get that amount of orbs basically. It's pretty much the same, so we're gonna compare the damage. So now we're gonna take a look at how much damage we can do in like 2 core passive, and we're just gonna test it out. I'm gonna show you the short burst version first. So we do our first burst here. Got her to around like 25 health at around 10 seconds, and we'll do our second burst and we'll end it around like 24 seconds. And we're close to the timer there. Dodge. Go into core passive and done. This is how much we got her into, like 18 health left with around like 24 seconds. You know, I didn't attack her after 24 seconds, so that's what you get. And now let's see the long burst version. Alright, so this is how you do it in long burst. Even if you dodge, you don't waste a single orb because it's unnecessary. You just keep attacking and you just keep accumulating as much orb as you possibly could. And I'm gonna wait until the timer around like 20 seconds to start using my burst. I could have done that earlier, but you know, you can't get everything to perfect. Right here you can see I use my long burst and it will stop it around like 24 seconds. Now I stop it around like 24 seconds. If I let this orb goes by before using the next orb, as you can see here, I do get her to like 18 health, which is pretty much the same with the short burst version. But what's different here is, if you notice, from the last short burst, I'm gonna show you on the screen now what the difference is. So now if you take a look back at the short burst after like 24 seconds, look what I have left. After I do all my damage, I got no orbs left, and what I can do from here is basic. Maybe you could use our alpha to keep doing like basic attack, or you could swap your tank or healer to do damage from there onwards. But if you're using long bursts, guess what? Take a look at here. After I got to 24 seconds, I still have like 5 extra sword wave left. So how much damage could I do right there? I don't have to switch to my tank or healer. I could keep doing the burst to get her around to like the second form basically. So I do think long burst is way more superior for fights like this when you don't have enough damage to kind of one-shot the enemy. Now, why does it have such a huge difference in terms of damage? Now, that's why I said before the start of the video, I did say that if you don't have the signature weapon for alpha, it really doesn't matter. So the difference here is pretty much if you read the core passive. The core passive kind of lean towards like long burst to it favors long burst basically, because when you're doing a short burst, you're gonna have to ping like 3 blue orbs first that count as like 3 stacks, and another random 3 orbs to get 6 stacks. So from there onwards, you would get around like 6 to 7 sword wave orb, and it will require an extra 4 orbs before you get like a full stack damage. So after you use your 4 orbs, the only orbs that are getting like max damage buff from this weapon is only like 3. If you have like average or like 7 orbs when you do a short burst after using 4 orbs to get the max stacks for your damage, every physical damage increased by like 20% at like 10 stacks, you're only getting like 3 orbs that could kind of fully utilize the full damage. But that's the difference here. If you're using long bursts, after pinging like 3 blue orbs and pinging like 3 random orbs, now you've already have 6 stacks and you have like average or like 14 sword wave orbs. So all it takes is like 4 extra orbs to kind of get to the maximum damage of this weapon's passive, fully utilizing it. And for the next 10 sword wave orb, you would get like the full buff from this weapon basically. So if you compare like 2 short bursts against 1 long burst, with short bursts you're only getting like around average like 3 orbs that could fully utilize the maximum damage from this weapon's passive. If you add both together, you would get around like 6 orbs that would fully utilize the full damage from this core weapon passive. But if you're doing a long burst, now you would have like 10 orbs that could fully utilize the core passive of the weapon. So you do have an extra 4 orbs that could get more damage from this weapon. So that is why you see a huge difference between both different bursts, and that's pretty much how I can explain it to the easiest that you would understand. So that is why you do see a huge difference in terms of the burst damage between this long burst and short burst. So hope you guys would understand the explanation. Hope I make it simple enough for you guys to understand. And there are some ideal situations where you absolutely have to use short bursts. Let's say like Warzone, where wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 enemies are a little bit more weak. When your short burst could easily kill them, you do not have to waste your time, because you do want to clear wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 as soon as you possibly could. So in that kind of situation, short burst does show its advantage. So in the end of the day, it's really up to you to kind of choose whatever burst you want in certain situations where you have to deal with, maybe you need a long burst or you need a short burst. It's really up to you to understand what kind of a situation you're in. If you need short burst, just use short burst. Don't use long burst during that time. And when you need long burst, don't try to use short burst, because long burst does more damage. And that's about it. And if you find this video helpful, be sure to leave a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, be sure to subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon. Peace.